Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal is one of my favorite Yu-Gi-Oh! Series. However, it does leave a few questions remaining at the end. The power of the Numeron code was obtained, and Astral returned to his homeworld, but right at the end, a new threat arrives, or perhaps an old one. Today, we're going to explore the identity of this new mysterious threat, and who it most likely is. With it being the end of Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal, the series that followed this was Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5, so could this new mysterious threat be Zark, the main villain of Arc 5? Unfortunately, this is where things are slightly complicated. Because of the different dimensions and the rough timeline that we have, we're not sure whether these series are linked at all. In the Xyz dimension in Arc 5, we do see Heartland City, as well as the character of Kite Tenjo returning. However, all previous protagonists are missing, and there's certainly evidence to suggest that these stories are completely separate. But something very important to consider is why there would be a new threat in the Zexal universe, specifically at the end of Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal. Threats or villains from the previous series, if they do still exist by the time Zexal takes place, might have noticed a power vacuum after the fall of the Baryons and Don 1000, and most importantly, Zexal contains the most powerful thing in any Yu-Gi-Oh! Series, the Numeron code, which could be what this new threat is after. So we need to determine who would know about the Numeron code, and who would be capable of claiming it, and potentially why they've waited or weren't able to obtain it before. And this makes me think Zark probably isn't the threat at the end of Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal. Zark's goal is to become the most powerful duelist, but here's the thing with Zark. His entire goal is to merge his four-dimensional counterparts so that he can regain his original ultimate form. Yuya represents the part of him that wants to duel to entertain and make people smile. So if we're extremely generous to Zark, saying that he has assembled his four-dimensional counterparts and is in his ultimate form by the end of Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal, which doesn't really make sense to the timeline, but we're just going to give him the benefit of the doubt. That was already his goal, so it doesn't really make sense for him to know about or seek out the Numeron code. But even if he did, Yuya is always going to be the part of him that is a weakness. It's why his plan didn't work in Arc 5, and it's why his plan will never work. Zark isn't 100% evil, and he can't 100% focus on one thing without having an internal conflict, so I'm eliminating Zark from the possibilities. More interestingly, we have the possibility of Zone from 5Ds. Now this is where things get tricky, because we're talking about timelines and time travel. We know there's a reality where the Mechlord genocide takes place, and Zone is the one and only survivor, but we also know that he travels back to the time 5Ds takes place to try to prevent this future from happening. But what if he had a different plan? Instead of traveling to the time 5Ds takes place, what if instead he traveled to the end of Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal and researched who might be in possession of the most powerful artifact in history? With a bit of planning, he knows exactly when his time is to strike. After the fall of the Baryons, the defeat of Don 1000, he would intervene and take the Numeron code for himself so that he can rewrite a new reality and create a paradise, preventing the Mechlord genocide from ever happening and fulfilling his goal. Now for this, I feel that Zone could do this. We know he's capable of time travel. We know that he wants to prevent the future from happening, and the Numeron code would certainly allow him to prevent this. So I think Zone is a very possible option. He has the capabilities and the reason to search for the Numeron code. But it's this next character that I truly believe is the most suitable for this new threat at the end of Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal. And this character is none other than Darkness, also known as Night Shroud in the dub of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. Although he's defeated in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, he's not gone. He is the personification of darkness in human hearts. He's eternal, omnipresent. He can be purged from his host, but he still resides in the world of darkness. As long as negative emotions exist in humanity, he will always have the potential to return. Of all the negativity, hatred, and betrayal in the final act of Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal, Yuma being betrayed, Astral being betrayed, the unfamiliar new power of Zexal, and more importantly, Dark Zexal, the war between Baryons and Astral World, the presence of Don 1000. Isn't it possible that all of these factors combined could contribute to the return of Night Shroud, who returns for a power greater than anything anyone has ever seen, potentially utilizing the vessel of a powerful soul, someone like Astral, which we know is a possibility as we've seen him be possessed by number 96 before. The Numeron code itself is something that Nightshroud has been aware of for a very long time, foretelling of the card that started everything, a card that holds great power, even if he doesn't know exactly what it is, or that it will appear in the form of the Numeron code. He knows there is a card that holds incredible power, and if he knew he had a chance to take it, he most certainly would. And with its power, he would finally be able to fulfill his vision, bring everyone from the human world into his own dark dimension, torturing them with visions of their hopes and dreams failing, causing them to give up on their lives and individuality. It's fair to say that with the power of the Numeron code, any villain could achieve anything they wanted. But Nightshroud separates himself from the rest because of his knowledge. He's almost an oracle, predicting events that would happen in future series. Since he's aware of the Numeron code, there's a chance he's been waiting for a chance to see it, for someone else to get their hands on it so that he can swipe it away. The biggest problem with this plan is that it relies on a great deal of hatred and negativity from humanity, which you could argue would have happened much sooner than the end of Zexal, as it's somewhat hard to tell what would bring on his presence. If there were enough negativity and hatred, and he was able to be summoned once again into the universe of Zexal, there's a good chance he would get his hands on the Numeron code. But equally, our protagonist Yuma Tsukumo is almost the exact antithesis to Nightshroud. Much like how Jade and Yuki was able to defeat him, I believe Yuma would be able to defeat him too, as a large portion of his character is to do with hope and belief. Sharing important bonds with people is the exact antithesis to darkness, so I would theorize that Yuma would actually get the best of Nightshroud or darkness. In fact, number 39, Utopia, in the original version of Zexal, is called Emperor of Hope. Now, with all of that said, if Nightshroud were to possess Yuma, I think the other characters would very much struggle, as Yuma definitely faces the best chance against Nightshroud more than any other character. So out of the options that I've mentioned, I would probably say Nightshroud is just about the most likely. Zone, I think, would be a very interesting way to go, but I do think it's a little bit less likely than Nightshroud, whereas Zark, I feel there's almost no way, which is odd because I feel like the writers were trying to set up Arc 5 by having this mysterious threat right at the end of Zexal, but really I don't think Zark fits this at all. In my honest opinion, I think they were just trying to leave a nice open ending that potentially the writers of the next series could work into their story if they wanted to. So the truth is, I don't think there was a character assigned to this mysterious threat, and I think it was always meant to be a mystery. It would be really cool if we got confirmation of who this was, but I don't think it's gonna happen. Although, with all of this being said, at the end of Zexal, all of Yuma's friends appear to him explaining the new threat, right as his key begins to glow. The two that explain it are Shark and Kite, and as they start to fly into the sky, they are all surrounded by a golden glow, except for one, Kite Tenjo. Now you may simply say it's because he can fly with the help of Orbital, potentially, or it could be Kite's plot to double-cross Yuma so that he can obtain the Numeron code for himself and somehow bring back Numeron Dragon, which is the king of all dragons, as the true Galaxy Eyes master. Let me know who you think it was in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.